So do you remember a time that you didn't write poetry? How did poetry find you?
Maybe as a toddler, poetry kind of found my way into my life because my parents uh, were very artistic by nature. My dad is a poet in the Croatian language, or was a poet, passed away now as my mother. But there was always music, art, books in our house, and my parents constantly read to me, and they'd read me verse in Croatian primarily, because that was technically my first language. It always has been a part of my life, and sometimes, just driving down the street, I'll come up with a phrase or an idea, by looking at something, and I'll even call it into my office and leave a voicemail to myself so I can write it down later.
You've published with Black Moss Press before. How have your interactions with the editing process changed? Do you find that each process is different for every new book?
Oh, unquestionably. I had my first editor of my first book was a woman by the name of Marie Jeanette, who actually works in my wife's accounting, firm now. That work with Marie segued to my working with Marty Gervais and Black Moss Press in his book publishing practicum, and all of a sudden I had a whole bunch of students, editing, my work.
Let's chat about the editorial process for your new book. So
Mhm.
it's arranged into several sections.
Mhm.
And so what was the thinking behind that? Was it an editorial suggestion, or did you really have an idea of how the structure might look?
Well, last spring, I'd say 98% of the poems were I sent it over to Marty just as one manuscript. And Marty has a knack for looking at something and saying, I got an idea that I want someone to look at it. And what he did with this manuscript, he sent it to Bruce Meyer in Barrie. And Bruce was the poet laureate of Barrie, and one of the most prolific writers I know. He has well over 60 books, poetry, essays, short stories. Toe Soldiers, his recent collection of short stories, is absolutely marvelous. Anyway, so Bruce took a look at this, and he actually took the manuscript, took out a few poems that he thought didn't fit, with this volume, and then set up the various sections, based on the titles of some of the poems. So when I got this back after sending, several months after sending Marty the manuscript, I got this back. I'm looking at this and I go, wow, a book emerged. It was first a manuscript, now it's a book. And I couldn't, and then Bruce said, are you okay with this? I said, okay, are you kidding me? I saw it in a different way now that I wouldn't have seen it, because you're too close to it. You have to let someone else take a look at it. And again, it's part of that editorial process. And I really and truly recommend to young writers, old writers, old guys like me, and ladies, but also young writers, especially starting out. Don't be afraid to have someone take a look at that and say, why don't you do it this way? This is, take this recommendation if you want. You don't have to, but the recommendations you sometimes get from a third party, it's just amazing.
We also happen to know that you are well known for your work on the stage. Um, did this book kind of come about as maybe you were moving some of that creative energy into poetry again that you were putting on the stage for a while?
Well, I often tell people that I haven't decided what I want to do when I grow up. I guess I haven't grown up yet. So I like embracing a lot of things, and theater has always been a part of my life. Through grade school and high school, early part of university, I kind of stopped it, put it on an arrest to it while I was busy, raising a family and starting a career and doing all those things that young parents do. And I got back into theater again because of my youngest, Aaron, who was a BFA grad from the University of Windsor, but he fell in love with theater at an early age and got involved in community theater. And I kind of resurrected sort of my amateurish career in that phase.